Hi everyone, welcome back to the Mentors Connect podcast. I'm your host Chloe, and today on the podcast we have Joni Pirovich, who is a major leader in the crypto space, especially here in Australia. She is the principal of BADASL, which is a law and consulting firm who provide advice on legal and tax in relation to the blockchain and digital assets. So definitely very future focused, going in the direction I think if you're watching this podcast, probably you think too, the world is going. So I'm very excited today to talk to Joni a bit about how she found her way into this space, this exciting space, as well as the future of DAOs, digital assets, and at the end, get a piece of advice from her for you young listeners out there who perhaps are thinking about going into this awesome arena. So thank you, Joni, so much for coming onto the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Chloe.
So I wanted to get us started. I wanted to hear a bit about yourself and how you're a major player in crypto in Australia. You at the crypto summit, you had a little bit of controversy in there. So tell us.
It's all a bit shocking to me still. I'm a tax lawyer by trade, and to be public speaking on stages like that, I'm still pinching myself. And the more photos that there are, the more I just want to go back into the shadows and do my legal advices and my client conversations. It's still quite unnatural. So please don't think that I am a natural at it. It takes.
You seem like a natural.
No, it's what is it? The duck pedaling underwater,
yeah.
Maybe. But no, I always said as early as when I was in high school, when I'm in a position to make decisions that count, I want them to be good ones based on a practical understanding of, whatever I'm interested in. And in this case, it comes from tax law, because my parents, as hard as they worked, they felt like they could never get ahead because they never understood the taxes and all of the different things that they could do, which their friends seemed to be doing. And as a young girl, I just thought, this is not right. And even from what I could see with politicians and how laws were made and how the tax laws were reformed, it didn't seem to be getting simpler. It seemed to be getting harder. Yeah. So I thought, all right, I'll do my time. I'll be in practice and in the industry. And I was never sure that I wanted to be in politics or government anyway. So Web3 and crypto has just been this really crazy journey of innovating from the outside, and that is what we're seeing, a political expression of we're using this technology to be more efficient and effective and create simpler access to things that help us hopefully get ahead in life. But as you know, there are a lot of risks that we're trying to manage too.
No, that's so cool. Such an amazing journey. And now I wanted to get to the bulk of our discussion and hear your amazing insights. So firstly, I wanted to ask, what is a DAO, and do you think it's the future for the way companies will operate?
So the DAO, DAO, stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. And a lot of people use this word DAO to describe things that are really communities still coordinated by a lot of humans, not a lot of automation, and by centralized entities with shareholders and with directors. So it's okay to be confused, because we're all still finding out what this term means and how broadly it can be stretched, but it exists on a spectrum. And that is because your level of decentralization at any one time is in flux. You might have some decisions that require the skills of a few people rather than a whole community of your token holders. And on the autonomous side, early in your venture, you might have human and manual processes before you're able to automate what the business functions are. An organization represents your community, the people involved, as well as eventually the technology to fulfill some function in society, whether it's in business or in our personal lives, the way that we coordinate around things that we're interested in. And this is why the term can be so confusing, because it's a global method of coordination and finding your people for your hobbies and interests, which is what we're seeing around non-fungible tokens or NFTs, or around business and financial opportunities, which is what the DeFi or decentralized finance movement started. So nobody really knows what a DAO is, and that's why there are calls around the world to give legal recognition to DAOs. Some of those calls are saying make it a new type of company, and fit it within the existing Corporations Act. But that is not my goal. It needs to be a new type of thing with a lot of freedom to explore and evolve, because that is what it reflects. People not wanting to be tangled up in all of the law, the body of law that is directors' duties and what a company is supposed to live and die by. They want the freedom to express how to coordinate, how to convene, how to offer products and services in new and innovative ways that are fun. Yes, with reference back to what we've learned, but not bound by that unnecessarily.
Wow, that's so interesting.
We don't know.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, because I've been trying to wrap my head around. I was like, these are two completely different things, but they both say they're DAOs anyway. So no, thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for that.
There is a lot of confusion.
So my questions might be a bit harder to answer now when I think about it, but even though we'll talk about just DAOs in general, I guess. But what aspect of a DAO model, like whatever type of model it is, do you think is like the most powerful?
Well, I think across all DAOs, there should be an expression of values. And that's what is supposed to attract people to what that DAO is doing and building. And some DAOs define their values better than others. And some actually don't have values. so that I think would be a red flag. But you need to have some common thread in a decentralized model of governance, where you don't necessarily have a founder or a founding team always there. You need a spirit and a value system to guide the ongoing decision making of a potentially global community. And as we know already, people can interpret a value system differently. And so what we see with blockchain-based business models is, if you don't agree with the majority of what the community has decided, to take the protocol in a particular direction, you can fork. So you and a bunch of others, you can copy the code, whether that's at the blockchain level or at the application level, you can copy that and fork it and make your own modifications to the code or to the way that you want to govern the direction of that protocol. So you can still leapfrog from what communities have already built. And at the time that you disengage from the values or how the majority of the community is interpreting those initial values, that's when you can branch off and start developing your own ecosystem, again, with people that you've found to be more aligned with your values system. And we've never had that. We've always been constrained to our sovereign state or our proximity, of Queensland and New South Wales and Victoria. We haven't had a global method of defining and understanding our value systems before.
No, that's powerful. And also, just for the listeners watching, like Bitcoin Cash, if you've heard of it, that's a fork of Bitcoin, just to help you conceptualize a bit. But thank you for that. So I wanted to ask, so how do you think this will impact the future of business? The ability to fork and to have you don't have to go under one sovereignty.
Well, I don't think we know. It's going to challenge existing models of commercializing traditional businesses, as well as how sovereign states compete against other sovereign states to attract talent and capital. And what we're also seeing is an appetite for more digital nomads. They don't want to necessarily tie themselves to a jurisdiction for a number of years. They want the freedom to move around. And with these crypto economies that are being created, sometimes through DAOs, sometimes not, because a centralized company can also release a token. What we're seeing is another layer of competitive tension where for that token community, they might negotiate for a particular deal in New Zealand or in Texas or in Mauritius. And so as a result of holding that fungible token, maybe it's Bitcoin, or a non-fungible token, maybe it's the Bored Apes, which is a really popular one, for traveling to that particular country or state, you may have access to tax incentives, not having to pay rent, or getting to eat at a number of restaurants for a month or 6 months. And this is another competitive layer which is being explored. It's kind of referred to as the network state for digital nomads, where you will travel to where it suits you at any one time based on the incentives from the tokens that you hold. And that we've never had before.
That's so awesome. That's so cool. You have your digital tokens. Oh my gosh. The future's exciting, guys. So now I wanted to continue on and tap into your experience. Obviously, we've been the whole time, but with tax and legal and providing these services. So have you seen, maybe perhaps more particularly here in Australia, companies really embracing Web 3.0, this new technology, or do you think they're still a bit adverse?
I think they're still very reluctant for a few reasons. There is an evolving regulatory environment, and when you don't have clear signaling, it's hard for a business and the board of directors to say, yes, let's invest all of that capital for a really uncertain regulatory environment.
That could end up being
yeah, it's businesses and their boards need to have a higher risk appetite to put that capital investment at risk, but it could pay off for them as well.
Paid off for people in 2011.
Well, and in 2017 again, and
in 2020, even 2020, yeah, true.
That's right. But with all of the peaks, there have been people that have lost a lot of money too, and maybe people just put that down to the traditional venture capital and the innovative cycle. But all throughout those years, you've seen the peaks and troughs of really the Bitcoin and the Ether prices. But in what we call the bear markets, when the prices seem to be tanking, that's when I, as a lawyer, have been my most busy, because people build in those cycles away from the attention of price. And then, we've seen the price will go up again, the more projects are ready to launch at that stage, and it fulfills this cycle of here is all the innovation still yet to come. So I haven't had a break in 6 or 7 years, a proper break, because it just keeps getting bigger and better and faster. But on the flip side, bigger dollar risks. The more mainstream that are coming into crypto, we had just a couple of weeks ago a $600 million attack with one of the blockchain-based games, and that was the largest that there has been ever. A few years ago, it was sort of around the $50-60 million mark per attack. So there is the technology risk. There are different risks than we're used to from, having humans operate our money and our assets. We're now dealing with natively digital, and I just think we need more aspiring people that are across the technology, the legal, being globally interested in connecting with global communities and having a say, being passionate about something and getting themselves immersed, because we need more good minds thinking about how we progress through this evolution in a way that protects us as well as fulfills what our goals are.
You've given me a good segue, because my next question is, what should young people be doing, be learning to be able to be in this exciting space?
Well, I think in addition to a core discipline, and that might be law, accounting, computer science, medicine even, also just explore this technology. Download a MetaMask wallet, create an account with one of the centralized digital currency exchanges, buy some Ether, transfer it to your MetaMask, and then try to connect to one of these decentralized applications and maybe do some DeFi, maybe purchase an NFT, join the Discord and see what kind of access and things that you can get and participate in. And sometimes those Discords holding the NFT, you get access to the really good, the practitioners in this field that will talk you through how to be most cyber secure with the wallets that you have on your desktop, for example. Like just get in and take the time to continue exploring, because I certainly went down the rabbit hole 6 or 7 years ago, and I'm just going deeper because I find it more and more fascinating.
No,
so just get in.
And yeah, as I've learned as well, guys, everyone is really supportive and just helps teach you and really wants you to get your knowledge going. So no, that's awesome. So now, before we finish up, I was hoping, Joni, you gave us a little bit of advice there, but I was hoping if you maybe had another piece of advice you'd like to share to just young people in general, whether it's they want to go into this space or they think about careers.
Don't be afraid when there's a fork in the road. Don't be afraid to follow the hard road. At every stage in my life, I've picked the hard fork in the road, not knowing whether it would actually mean success or happiness, but my heart wanted to go there. I just knew I had to take that path. And it turns out there's been a lot of tough things that I've had to go through to fight my way to be able to even do this work at times. But I knew deep down it was worth it, and I trusted that. And it did take a while to build a profile and a practice, but I stuck at it and it happened. So I just encourage people, there'll be a lot of naysayers and people that doubt when you decide to take what is the harder road, but if you believe in it, back yourself.
Well, that's so awesome. Thank you so much, Joni, today for your time, sharing with all of us your amazing insights, that really good piece of advice, and just talking to us. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Chloe.